It's that time of year again when Halloween is just around the corner. And last year, I told a paranormal ghost story that I had encountered when I once worked at the Lord Nelson Hotel in Halifax. And I asked you guys at home if you guys had encountered a paranormal ghost story that's unexplained to come forward and tell your story. And with Halloween just around the corner, I have another paranormal ghost story that I had not encountered, but other people had encountered it, and we're going to tell it to you. We're going to talk about the paranormal ghost stories. We're going to tell two of them of Elvis Presley. August 16th, 1977, it was reported to the world that the world's greatest singer and entertainer to ever walk on stage, Elvis Aaron Presley, had died at the age of 42. Elvis Presley was going through a time in life when he was going through financial turmoil, and his career wasn't going the way how he hoped it. He had a lot of ups and downs along the way, and bad management that was done by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, at the time. When Elvis Presley passed away, it was sudden. It created a lot of speculations, a lot of uncertainty, because there was more questions than answers when Elvis Presley passed away. And when Elvis Presley passed away, like the very day when he passed away, there was unexplained phenomenal occurrences taking place. That's just unexplained. And not, even on the day of his funeral, paranormal situations taking place that were unexplained. Elvis Presley was pronounced deceased at 3:30 in the afternoon at Baptist Memorial Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis Presley died at 3:30 in the afternoon, reportedly by the doctors, but it was predicted that Elvis was dead around 9 o'clock in the morning. The day when Elvis died, now get this, it was not reported yet that Elvis Presley passed away on the news. It was not made to the national news at the time. And around 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon, Elvis Presley's neighbor, who just lived right on the side of the fence of Elvis Presley. Elvis would visit him every now and then before his passing. They weren't friends. They weren't the best of friends, but they were just regular neighbors, just went on with their ordinary business. And Elvis did come over every now and then. He'd come over and just talk to the guy and all this stuff. But without the guy knowing, on August 16th, 1977, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Elvis Presley's neighbor was talking to Elvis Presley and in his backyard at his fence, face to face with Elvis Presley in the flesh, not knowing that Elvis Presley just passed away. Just having a casual, normal conversation like anybody else would have. But this conversation was a little more like he's saying goodbye. And his neighbor didn't think nothing of it until he went back in the house and he turned on the TV when he seen the news. When he went in his house, when he turned on the news after, when he was done talking to Elvis, he seen on the news, a news reporter stating that at 3:30 in the afternoon at Baptist Memorial Hospital, Elvis Presley passed away. And here it is, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he just had a conversation with Elvis Presley in the flesh. Ever since that day, Elvis Presley's neighbor he put up his house for sale, and he moved away, and he never returned to his former house ever again, because it was just too much for him to handle. He couldn't get over what happened, and it's been reported when people pass away, they're known to hang around in the area where they lived, where they're known to be at. And for Elvis to be hanging around Graceland makes a common sense. That makes a lot of sense why Elvis would have been seen there. Because a lot of paranormal investigators, a lot of psychics, psychologists, and what do you call the other people there? Psychiatrists would say that the reason why the deceased goes back where they once lived previously, and the reason why they're communicating to friends and family, or what they're trying to, is because they're trying to say goodbye. They're trying to connect with you. They're trying to say goodbye to you, and they believe that's what Elvis Presley was doing with his neighbor. He was saying goodbye to him for the last time, trying to thank you for being my neighbors and all this stuff. But without his neighbor realizing it, Elvis Presley died. And basically, his neighbor was talking to Elvis Presley's spirit, his ghost, without even realizing it. And I can see how that would spook him, as it would spook anybody else. But his neighbor, when he realized what he just encountered outside, it shook him right to the core, right to his very existence as a human being. He was really spooked about that. He was very uneasy about that. And ever since that day, he sold his house. He would never go back to that house where he once lived. He said it was just too much for him to handle. And a lot of paranormal investigators, when they're looking at stuff like this, like I said, psychics, stuff like that, psychologists, psychiatrists, one of the things what they would say, the first thing that a person who passes away, where they're going to hang out, is a place where they once lived, and they're going to try to connect with family and friends, say goodbye. And they basically said that's basically what Elvis was doing. That was the first paranormal ghost story with Elvis Presley. The second paranormal incident of Elvis Presley taking place at his funeral in 1977, just 2 days after when Elvis Presley died, August 18th, 1977. They were unloading Elvis out of his hearse, the white hearse he had. It was very hot that day, very, very, very hot. And his friends, his family friends, the Memphis Mafia, his friends that were in the Memphis Mafia at the time, were getting Elvis out of the back of the hearse. And Elvis's coffin was quite heavy. I was told it was copper. His coffin was made out of copper, just like his mother's, Gladys. When Gladys Presley died, Elvis had the same kind of coffin as his mother, Gladys. And they said when they got Elvis out of their hearse, and they were struggling to carry him, because they said Elvis's coffin was quite heavy, and they were struggling to get him in that auditorium, the mausoleum, whatever you want to call it, where they're going to host his funeral. This great big oak tree, healthy as can be, the biggest branch you could find. Just when they were carrying Elvis, they were struggling. All of a sudden, the branches snapped, and they heard the biggest crack right loud. And when it hit the ground, it made a hell of a noise. And it slammed right hard. And everyone was, ooh, what was that? And they everybody at Elvis's funeral outside watching Elvis being carried into the mausoleum were spooked. They couldn't get over what was taking place. And some of them, they just joked it off. Oh, it's just one of Elvis and one of his jokes he'd pull, because Elvis was a practical joker. He was like that. If Elvis pulled a prank or a joke on you, that's his way of saying he likes you. That's just the way he was. And when that big oak tree, that big branch, that big solid oak tree branch snapped, it made a hell of a noise, the loudest noise you could come across, spooked the hell out of pretty well everybody there. And they all stated that's Elvis pulling one of his pranks like he always would do. And then they just went on. They were a little shaken, and they just went on, carrying Elvis into the mausoleum. And then another incident had taken place when Elvis was in the funeral home. Elvis was laid out. He had his necklace around him. Elvis had the best of jewelry you could find. He always had custom-made personal jewelry made for him. These TCB rings and these necklace, he had it. But Elvis had a necklace or a cross for Jesus Christ. And the way the sun was going over their ceiling, the roof, the sign shined down. Just the way how it hit, how it shined on Elvis. It gave the most beautiful light that you could ever see. Beautiful colors, the most beautiful thing you could ever see. And they said, most people, from a range from 1 out of 5, most people would have 3 out of 5. Elvis had all 5. The best looking person, everything about him. He just had this big presence about him. And when that sun went over Elvis, when that sun shined on Elvis's necklace, when it gave the most beautiful light that you could that they never seen before. And again, they looked up. They said, was that Elvis reaching out to them? Was that Jesus Christ trying to communicate with the people, saying that Elvis made it to heaven? It made a heck of a presence. But that's the second ghost story about Elvis Presley. Let's get on to the third. In Las Vegas, Elvis Presley was the best of friends with Wayne Newton. There was a night there when Wayne Newton was performing in Vegas. They were performing songs, Wayne Newton would normally do. But during the concert, they lost power. The place went total darkness, and they were getting what happened, and they were trying to rush for the generators to get it going, and 2 lights stayed on. One light went right from the balcony, shined out from the balcony right down on Wayne Newton, right where Wayne Newton was standing, and there was another light, again shining down on Wayne Newton. So Wayne Newton looked up. He seen this figure of a man standing there looking at him. He didn't think nothing of it, so he looked up again. He said, nobody should be up there, because that whole tall balcony was shut off. Nobody's allowed up there. But yet, there's somebody up there. So Wayne Newton looked again. He's starting to realize that this man looks awful familiar. And he's starting to realize that man was his friend. Then he's starting to realize that friend that Wayne Newton's friends with, is Elvis Presley. And Wayne Newton said, Elvis was looking down on him, smiling. He basically looked down on Wayne Newton saying, I'm fine. Wayne Newton said, Elvis told him that, gave him the impression that he's at peace. And Wayne Newton said that when he looked up at Elvis, he was at peace. So when we hear of death, we all think it's the end of everything. Or is it because we don't understand it? Often when you hear of Halloween, paranormal activity, interacting with spirits, we often think the scary elements, the spooky elements, the worst case scenario that can take place. But we don't think of the peace that some people are in, the happiness that they're in when they left their world to cross over to the other side. Because Wayne Newton was there stating in the past, not only was he familiar with Elvis Presley, but he was friends with Elvis Presley. And Wayne Newton stated before Elvis passed away, he looked at Wayne Newton, he gave him some advice. He said, don't make the same mistake what I made. And Wayne Newton looks at Elvis, what do you mean? You have the best relationship with your kids, the best that you can have. Don't make the same mistake what I made by going on the road, having all these tours booked, having the worst kind of relationship, barely even knowing your daughter. Elvis basically looked at Wayne Newton and saying, don't make the same mistake what I made. And Wayne Newton looked back at Elvis, and he stated to Elvis, he agreed, all right, he won't make the same mistake what Elvis did. But Wayne Newton stated, before Elvis died, Elvis wrote a letter. And some people asked him, who was the letter for? Who was the letter supposed to be for. And Wayne Newton said Elvis wrote a letter to God saying, my time here on earth is completed. I have no need to be here. I did all I could do. And I had no need to be here on earth anymore. Then after that, maybe 2 weeks later, Elvis Presley passed away. You know, I mean, that's only like 3 of the ghost stories. I mean, if you want, we'll tell another ghost story on Elvis. This is our 4th ghost story on Elvis. At Graceland, when Elvis Presley died, when Priscilla Presley, Elvis Presley's former wife, Priscilla Presley, opened Graceland to the public. Ever since the day when Graceland was open to the public, it was a major tourist attraction. Second biggest attraction than the White House. The White House in Washington has the highest tourist attraction in the United States, and Graceland is the second. And there have been people have been stating, including I had a family member that went to Graceland after when Graceland was open to the public. They've been stating that when they go to Graceland, they feel Elvis Presley's presence very strongly. And they also stated it feels like that Elvis is welcoming them into his home. You're allowed to go through Graceland on the bottom floor, but on the top floor, you're not allowed up there. It's off limits except for Elvis's family, because that's where Elvis passed away. Elvis was pronounced dead at the Baptist Memorial Hospital at 3:30 in the afternoon, but it had been predicted by doctors that Elvis is most likely deceased around 9 o'clock in the morning when his fiancée at the time, Ginger Alder, found Elvis on the floor, assuming that he just passed out. He didn't pass out. He didn't faint. He passed away. But that's why the top floor of Graceland is off limits to the general public. As time went on, there have been people stating there have been a person that's a dead ringer to an Elvis Presley look-alike. And it had been reported by an Elvis fan who was attending Graceland for the summer on a trip. They reported to the management at Graceland that they encountered an individual that's a dead ringer to Elvis Presley in the plain flesh. And they asked the management at Graceland, do you guys have an Elvis Presley look-alike on the premises of Graceland for the Elvis fans? Which makes sense. Of course they would. Of course they're going to get the fans all excited because you're at Elvis's house. But the problem was, the management at Graceland looked at this visitor saying that, unfortunately, no, we do not have an actor or a tribute artist or an Elvis impersonator booked to be at Graceland for this certain day. So that spoke to him. And it's been reported by a few people, besides this individual, that there have been a person at Graceland that's a very good, close, dead ringer to Elvis Presley in the plain flesh. And that got Graceland a little concerned. It would do it like any results with people in management. All right, we're coming across this person that may be interacting with Elvis's fans that is pretending to be Elvis when Elvis passed away. That's not possible for that to be Elvis Presley. But yet, fans are coming across this person that looks like Elvis. So what had happened was, the Graceland management had the entire Graceland property outside, inside Graceland, in and upstairs, the basement, everywhere, going through Graceland thoroughly, very closely, looking for somebody who may be hiding inside the Graceland mansion or on the property that may be pretending to be Elvis. Basically looking for some Looney Tune, so crazy that's very close, looking like Elvis, and they basically want to bring it to an end. Why is he doing this? They get some more questions, they get answers. Why are you doing this? Why are you here? And all this stuff. Are you trying to get money off Elvis here and these properties? That's a good question to be asking because you're on Graceland. But when they did this check, They did it with security. They did it with police, the Memphis Police Department. Then they did it with high intelligence security around. High intelligence security. They came up empty-handed. But yet, there's people coming across this individual, this man, that they're very close dinner around to Elvis Presley. And I got to say, even more bothersome is that this man walked up to him, talking to him in the plain flesh. It's like, we're doing this interview right now. And it got a lot of people spooked up. Is it possible that Elvis's spirit may be coming in the flesh, talking to people? Because there have been paranormal ghost stories about Elvis at Graceland, around Graceland, by a lot of people. So that's only, it's our fourth Elvis ghost story. Let's go on to our next one. There was a man driving a truck close to Graceland. He wasn't on Elvis Presley Boulevard or anywhere near it. He was about 5 miles out. Anyways, he picked this man up, hitchhiking on the side of the road. It was at night, so he said, you don't want to see somebody walking this far out into nowhere, so you won't pick him up. But he had a military uniform on. This was a little odd, so he picked him up. So he got in the truck, and this guy was in the plain flash talking to him, looking at him, but he said, the guy who picked him up said, this guy looks awful familiar. He just didn't want to say something to offend him or anything, just keep the conversation friendly while you can. So he drove him where he said he wanted to go, and he said Elvis Presley Boulevard. So all right, drive him down, and the guy that picked him up said he's on his way home. He got some cars he got a few cars he wanted to fix up, because he likes working on cars. And this guy who he picked up, who was in this army uniform, stated that I have a few cars at home, got a few Cadillacs, and so the guy said, all right. So as the conversation went on, this guy was talking about, he used to be in the music industry. He liked it, he said he just liked what he did, what he was doing in the music industry. But, and he said when he joined the army and stuff, he was a little down. But, he enjoyed it, and he likes working on his Cadillacs off to the side. So, when they stopped at on Elvis Presley Boulevard, Graceland's just off the side. So, this person gets out. Thanked him for the drive and all this stuff. So when he shut the door and he looked at him and was by, this guy's too, you won't believe this. So he drove off. As this person was walking away, as he drove away in his truck, this man was slowly fading away as he drove off. And he was walking straight over toward Graceland. And when it was all said and done and over, this guy came forward and he stated to the police. He stated that I picked up Elvis Presley in the plain flesh at Graceland. He walked over right across the street on Elvis Presley Boulevard, and he walked right through the brick wall, believe it or not. And he said he was very spooked about that. And it had been reported to people who'd been visiting Graceland that Elvis's spirit was seen walking around the field of Graceland, and it had been reported by people that when Elvis would see some fans, he'd walk up to them. And when Elvis was supposed to make contact, he'd fade away. And a lot of people have been bothered by that. So, it makes you wonder. When Elvis Presley died on August 16th, 1977, did Elvis Presley really leave? Or is it us? We just don't understand death. And it's also been reported at the Las Vegas Hilton. It's now the Las Vegas Hilton. But back in the 1970s, when Elvis used to perform at the Las Vegas International Hotel, it's now called the Las Vegas Hilton. Elvis took up a residency on the, the 20th floor or 30th floor? And it's been reported that Elvis was spotted in and out of the Vegas International Hotel. It's been reported that people seen Elvis driving a Cadillac to his a private driver he used to have at the hotel at the Vegas International Hotel where he once performed. They gave him a private driveway where Elvis would go into the hotel without having to interact with fans. You don't have to deal with this with the fans and interacting with them. But now what happens is when he drives in, the driveway is still there, but it's blocked off. It's all filled in now with a wall. So now what fans are saying is when they see Elvis's spirit driving his Cadillac, it goes right through the brick wall. And they're in the whoa, and also in the Vegas hotel, Elvis's residency, the room he used to live in, is now a lobby. And it's been reported that when they would lock it at night, sometimes what they believe is Elvis, this entity, is stopping them from locking the door with a bolt when they turn the key to lock it at night. And he said there was times it made no sense. There's nothing on either side of the door, and that bolt will not turn over. And they're saying, is that Elvis on the other side? Because here's Wayne Newton having a concert. The power goes out. Only two lights stay on, and then as Wayne Newton looks up, two lights remain on. One light's coming down from the balcony. There's a man standing there when nobody's not supposed to be on that balcony. And he looks up. There's his friend Elvis standing there, very peaceful. And Wayne Newton stated he could read Elvis's mind quite well, and he's saying, it's all right, I'm at peace. And the hotel manager at the Vegas International Hotel, now the Las Vegas Hilton, had stated it had been reported where Elvis Presley had been seen coming in and out of the Vegas Hilton Hotel when he already passed away. So basically what he said is, no, we just go with it. It's nothing threatening. It's just him. It's just Elvis doing him. One of the things what he said what Elvis would do is he would turn the lights off and on for no good reason. And one of the things that paranormal investigators said, when you see lights flickering off and on who you suspect it to be paranormal activity, the one thing that paranormal investigators often state that it's the deceased trying to communicate with you. And basically what the hotel manager is saying is Elvis is basically trying to communicate to people, to the hotel staff when they're working at the Vegas International Hotel, at the Las Vegas Hilton, the Hilton Hotel. I'd never been to the Vegas Hilton Hotel. I thought of going there, but that's the ghost stories of Elvis Presley, and so it makes you wonder, when you're declared deceased, are you actually deceased, or is it just your body laying in death? And you just go on with your everyday stuff as if nothing happened. So that would make sense why people have been interacting with Elvis, spotting Elvis, at the Las Vegas International Hotel, the Las Vegas Hilton Hotel, whatever you want to call it now, and at Graceland. That makes more better sense because maybe you don't go anywhere. You're just going on as if nothing happened. But anyways, that's our ghost stories for this year. And if you have any ghost stories, how about you tell some paranormal ghost stories? But anyways, my name's Adam Conrod, and let's hear your paranormal ghost stories, what you have to tell.